Hello and welcome to the Music Professor channel. My name is Matthew King and here is Loki, my co-presenter. And today we're going to be talking about the Trois Gymnopédies of Erik Satie. It'll be quite a quick video. I'm wearing my Satie t-shirt, which has the first Gymnopédie on it. This channel has a collaboration with Amadeus Apparel, who sell these wonderful t-shirts. If you're interested in having a look at the t-shirts or buying a t-shirt, you can go on the Amadeus Apparel website and you can use the special discount code, which is in the video description beneath this video. So have a look at the video description, it gives you all the information there. And we're picking up on a discussion that we touched on last week in a short on the channel, really answering the question, what is a gymnopédie? Someone had asked this in one of the comments, and I'd given an answer, but I'll give it again now in case you didn't see the short. What is a gymnopédie? Okay, well, Erik Satie, a wonderfully brilliant and eccentric French composer of the late 19th century, early 20th century, composed these extraordinary pieces. They feel as fresh and new as if they were composed yesterday. In some sense, they are modern pieces in a way that very little from the late 19th century sounds modern. But I think Erik Satie's gymnopédies do sound modern, and this is because they're essentially stripped of any notion of romanticism. Which is not to say that they are inexpressive. On the contrary, they're deeply melancholy pieces, but they don't have that clothing of late 19th century music, that post-Wagnerian or Brahmsian world, which was the world in which they were composed. They were written in the late 1880s, 1888 in fact. That's when they were published in a French magazine. And so here's a composer who was sort of inventing our world, I would say. Living in Paris in the 1880s, but somehow with some sort of extraordinary sense of the world beyond. I can't think of many composers in history quite like Satie from that point of view, somebody with an almost clairvoyant sense of the future. In fact, clairvoyant is a word that he uses in one of his Nausicaä. He seems to have this vision into the beyond, quite extraordinary. So just to answer the question that was asked in one of the comments on the channel recently, a gymnopédie, as Satie invented it when he wrote these pieces in 1888, is essentially a slow waltz. So you've got a 1, 2, 3 type meter, but the second beat, 1, 2, 3, is in a sense emphasized. It's held for 2 beats. So you get the 1, 2, hold, 1, 2. So it's that sort of sense of a iambic rhythm. In other words, a short, long, which gives it its very specific flavour. Over the top of the short, long, you then have a very austere, almost ritualised unfolding of a melodic scheme where each phrase paces itself with these stately, stepwise crotchets. And the reason why we can define this as a genre that Satie created is that it's not just the first gymnopédie that does this. If you turn to the second one, you find exactly the same thing. Same alternating pair of chords, not the same chords, but the same scheme of alternating chords, and then the melody progressing in its austere, stepwise manner. So, and in fact the melody sounds almost the same as the first. It's got the same da 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 da. The first melody is, yes, da 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 da. And the second one, da 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 da. So it's got the same melodic hook. What's so marvellous though, I remember when I first played these as a child, being baffled that you turned over the page and the second piece seemed almost the same. And now that I think about it as a grown-up, I marvel at it because this is a composer reinventing what you do with a set of pieces. Up till now, through the centuries, composers had always contrasted a piece with a different kind of piece. You know, a fast piece contrasts with a slow piece, which contrasts with a dance piece or whatever. Here's Satie completely revolutionising that notion of what you do with a set of pieces. He simply does the same thing 3 times, but the 3 things are different, as if you're viewing the same object from different angles. And I sometimes wonder if he had in mind some actual object. Gymnopédie comes from a Greek word, gymnopédia, which refers to a sort of Spartan ritual dance of naked warriors moving around. And this kind of thing you see depicted in vases and jars from ancient Greece. I sometimes wonder if Satie had that kind of idea of an ancient object which you're viewing from different angles. So it's almost a sort of sculptural idea of what a piece of music can be, an object that has multiple perspectives, that you can see the same thing from different places. Isn't that an extraordinary conception of a form? The third Gymnopédie, by the way, since we've talked about the first 2, the third is in A minor. Again, alternating chords, A minor, E minor, and then the melody. A wonderful 5-bar phrase structure. Behind the appearance of absolute simplicity is something wonderfully sophisticated, and isn't that a definition of what great art is? Very often it is something that has the appearance of simplicity, of absolute perfect simplicity, but behind it is some wonderful artifice. And all 3 pieces are built on a sort of modal sense of tonality, quite unlike any other piece in the 1880s. I can't think of anything like this. In fact, it's quite an interesting game to imagine how any other composer might have conceived of a slow, austere kind of waltz in the late 1880s. For example, this is music that's essentially in G major. So, you know, if I was a standard late 19th century composer, you might think, okay, you might do that. In other words, since it appears to begin on G, on the chord of G, make it G. I mean, beginning on a major 7th sounds okay to us, but it's really, it wouldn't have been in the 1880s. That we've become used to the major 7th, partly because of Erik Satie and partly because of its popularity through the 20th century in jazz and popular genres. But in the 1880s, it wasn't really a chord that was used in that way. If you ever heard it, it would be a chord that would require resolution. So it's extraordinary that he has an unresolved major 7th. And even more extraordinary that that chord then goes to another unresolved major 7th. In other words, G major 7, D major 7. Isn't that extraordinary? So that you don't actually know what the key is. So a minute ago I said that if this was in G major, you'd go from the tonic to the dominant 7th, and then back to the tonic, back to the dominant 7th. But actually, what is the tonality here? It starts on G, but it goes then to D. So is the tonic G, or is the tonic D? So do you see Satie's built into this thing an absolute sense of ambiguity? Is this the home chord, or is this the home chord? They're both unresolved major 7ths, so there's no way of knowing. As it turns out, it's the second chord that is the tonic. It's actually in D major, not G major. So really, there ought to be a sense of a plagal cadence, It sounds ridiculous, but that's much more what you ought to be doing in the late 1880s if you're writing a slow waltz. But it's these unresolved major sevenths that are so wonderful. And what they give you is this F sharp, this pedal F sharp running through both chords as they swing back and forth. And of course that F sharp then becomes the focal point underneath the melody as it hovers downwards and eventually lands on that note. He marks it forte. A beautiful effect actually with the sustained F sharp behind the chord F sharps. Beautiful effect. The other wonderful thing that happens in these pieces is that they proceed in their sort of ritualized way. There's a sense of inexorability as perfect as a Bach prelude. So for example, this beautiful melancholy A minor, which then takes us D in the bass, of course, so as a dominant seventh, we're really in G major, but then D minor, A minor over D, these beautiful E's, D's. It's got this inner counterpoint. Do you see that line going da, 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 da? It's extraordinary chords, these sort of complex white note chords. Everyone perfectly judged, perfectly spaced. And here's the final phrase, E minor. And we feel the bass now moving round the circle of fifths to E in the bass. E becomes the dominant of A minor 7 and this weird modal cadence, A minor to D major and then G major, the circle of fifths are still rolling around. It's so perfect. And then the second half of the piece repeats, there's no variation, it's so beautiful it doesn't need it, but that in itself is absolutely radical at the time, to have an unvaried repetition as if you're just watching this ritual unfold. And then at the end of the second half, he goes in a different direction. You get this, so you reach that point, and then the final phrase, E minor, that's different. What was it originally? Da, da. It originally went majorwards. Here it's sort of going, sort of has a Phrygian quality with that F, A minor, everything's minor. There's a sort of Phrygian F there. Wonderful, scrunchy, dissonant harmony. A minor, ending in D minor. So we have a piece that began in D major but ends in D minor. This is very rare to have a major piece turned to the minor in the 19th century. I mean, there's one nocturne of Chopin that did that, the B major that ends in B minor. Brahms, after this piece, wrote his final set of intermezzi. I don't think he was influenced by Satie, but he might have been influenced by Chopin in writing. He wouldn't have heard of Eric Satie. The final piece in the final set of intermezzi goes to the minor. It's in E flat major, but at the end it's E flat minor. Marvelous. A very different kind of piece. But here's Satie pioneering something absolutely extraordinary, new, completely unlike the standard music of the late 19th century. And Brahms isn't standard, but he's a major composer of the era, but he sounds very much of his time. I don't think Satie's music does. Somehow it feels much more recent. How did the Gymnopédie affect people of the period? Well, Debussy thought so highly of them and was a good friend of Satie's that in the 1890s he orchestrated the Gymnopédie, and in the process somewhat prettified them. If you listen to Debussy's orchestration, of course they're beautiful, it's Debussy, and he's a very, very great orchestrator. But they do sound much more Art Nouveau, a beautiful somewhat embellished character they have. They don't quite have the austerity of the originals. There's a piece by Debussy called Sacred and Profane Dance for harp and strings. The second dance, the profane dance, is clearly influenced by the Satie Gymnopédie. And the wonderful conversation of Beauty and the Beast in Ravel's Ma Mère L'Oie. So this represents beauty. Look at this Gymnopédie accompaniment in the left hand. So melody. Do you see the Satie influence there with the held note, this held A? Very characteristic Ravelian harmony, wonderful, not like Satie, but perfect in every way. I should point out, there was a comment on the channel about the wonderful use of contrabassoon in the sublime orchestration that Ravel did of all these pieces, the Ma Mère L'Oie suite. He has a contrabassoon for the Beast. Here's the Beast, played by the contrabassoon in the orchestral version. But down here, growling away in the bass. And he does this wonderful thing at the end when the Beast is magically transformed into a handsome prince. Wonderful. So that's the transformation from Beast to Handsome Prince that occurs at the end of Ravel's wonderful slow waltz, Gymnopédie type of piece that he composed in Ma Mère L'Oie. And some composers subsequently have written Gymnopédie. Satie's influence is immense. I've written a Gymnopédie myself. Here's a tiny bit of it. So very soon on the channel we'll be releasing one of our animated videos of the third Gymnopédie. We've done the first two and you can see them. There are links to those in the video description below. And then we'll do one of these compilations where we release all three Gymnopédies so you can hear the three of them back to back, which is so extraordinary. It's a new conception of how three pieces can relate to each other. Visionary and amazing. Thank you for watching. Enjoy Eric Satie. Do listen to other Eric Satie videos. We've done quite a few on the channel. You can hear all the nosy ends in a recent video and I'll put that in the video description below. If you like the channel, please like and subscribe. Press the little bell if you want notification. And if you're in a generous mood, please consider donating to the channel because we could really do with your donations. We have a wonderful community of generous people who support the channel. Please be part of that community. And details of how to donate to the channel are in the video description below. Thank you for watching.